A 10-year relationship. Luis broke up with me suddenly and married a freshman girl right after. I was nearly 30. Rejected again and again on blind dates. 5 years later, at a class reunion, they were a polished middle-class couple, driving a Benz, wearing Arc'teryx, carrying LV, and I showed up on a bike, left alone in the corner until a nosy person deliberately asked, "Nicole, why didn't your husband come?" I smiled and said, "He went to ring the Nasdaq bell." Chapter 1. Luis and I met in our freshman year. Just after arriving in this unfamiliar big city, I was approached by an old couple asking to borrow money for travel. After I refused, they followed me, cursing the whole way. "So young and already so heartless. You heartless brat. No man will ever want you." My face turned red. I trembled with rage. That's when Luis appeared. A group of energetic young guys passed by. They were full of youthful bravado, and stood protectively in front of me. Luis was the most handsome and attention-grabbing among them. He had a Wilson basketball in his hand and limited edition sneakers on. He flashed his white teeth and said, "Hey, freshman girl, you okay?" Of course. He quickly found out we were in the same year, and I wasn't a freshman, but that didn't stop him from chasing me. And that's how we got together. He came from a local, middle-class family. I was from a small county town far away. In our second year, Luis took me to meet his parents. I brought fruit and nervously followed behind him. To my surprise, his mother was very kind. I sighed in relief. Luis winked at me and said, "Told you. My mom would like you." I couldn't help feeling happy. What I didn't know then was Luis's mom didn't like me. She just thought, "He's a boy. It's just dating. It's not like he'd lose anything." And so, we dated from freshman to senior year. The year we graduated, my parents wanted me to come home, but there weren't any good jobs waiting back home. I told Luis. He grabbed my hand in panic. "No, you can't go back. But life here is expensive. I'm not sure I can make it." He hugged me tight. "It's okay. I'll have my dad get you an easy job. I'll take care of the money. You just be my wife." At that moment, all my anxiety and doubts melted away. I didn't really need his dad's help finding work. I just needed a safety net, something to fall back on. My major had better job prospects than his. In the end, Luis joined a company owned by his dad's friend, doing HR. I made it through rounds of interviews and landed a product manager job at a top-tier tech company. I stayed in the city, but life has no final destination. Even when it seems perfect. Being top of the class in high school wasn't it. Getting into a good college wasn't it. Being with him wasn't it. Getting married isn't it. Even having kids isn't it. Chapter 2. Second year after graduation. My parents were urging me to make Luis give a clear answer. I was too embarrassed to bring it up seriously, worried it'd make me seem desperate to get married. So I joked about it instead. Luis paused his game for a second. As if he hadn't heard me. His mom stayed friendly, but never once mentioned marriage. Fourth year after graduation, a college roommate asked why we still weren't married. I pretended to be relaxed and said, "We're still young. No need to rush into love's grave." In the blink of an eye, sixth year after graduation, also our 10th year together, Valentine's Day, I booked a restaurant with a romantic atmosphere. Halfway through dinner, I smiled and asked Luis, "Should we start thinking about getting married?" In the candlelight, his gentle expression suddenly turned cold. He said, "Okay, I'll talk to my mom about it." I exhaled in relief, and to avoid the awkward tension, I quickly changed the subject. But after that, nothing more was ever said. I asked a few times, he just looked annoyed. Finally, during an argument over something trivial, he blurted out the truth. "Nicole, my mom doesn't want me to marry you." I froze, but deep down, I wasn't even surprised. The fight fell silent. Luis realized what he'd said, but made no effort to take it back. He stayed silent, pulling out his phone. My anger didn't come like fire, it spread slowly, like a cold lake engulfing me. "So, you never intended to marry me, did you?" Luis rubbed his brow, irritated. Then, as if he'd given up pretending, he said, "Can't we just keep dating like this? Why do we have to get married? What's the point of a marriage certificate, anyway? You're in your career peak now. Wouldn't marriage just get in the way?" Every word an excuse. Every sentence a justification. I cut him off. Luis. You disgust me. He was someone I knew so well. Yet now he felt like a complete stranger. I couldn't hold back my tears. But Luis was no longer the kind of man who'd be moved by my crying. He muttered a curse, then sneered. Nicole, don't act like you're the one so hurt or so in love. You just want to marry a local guy, don't you? My mom's workplace is full of out-of-town girls like you. I'm the best you'll ever get. Aren't you just afraid of losing me? Before he could finish, I turned and walked away. That night, I stayed at a friend's place. The next morning, staring at my swollen eyes in the mirror, I washed my face in a hurry. Adults go to work, even when their hearts are breaking. It wasn't the first time Luis and I had fought. We always made up afterward. My friend said this time he went too far, that I couldn't forgive him so easily. I had just typed okay when a message popped up from Luis. Being from the same background matters. Nicole, let's break up. I nearly dropped my phone. Chapter 3. After the sudden breakup, I couldn't stop checking Luis's social media. I kept looking for any sign he might still love me, but there was nothing. I scrolled again and again, until one day, he posted a short video and tagged me. He was walking hand in hand with another girl in the sunlight. When I clicked on it, I heard Luis's mom's voice. You two look perfect together. Closer. Closer! Their relationship was out in the open, blessed in a way I never was. The caption read, "Stop lurking in the sewer like a rat. Quit spying on other people's happiness." I didn't shed another tear. My hands were trembling so badly that I couldn't even tap the delete button properly when I tried to remove Luis. Once my family heard about the breakup, my mom started pushing me to move back home again. You've broken up. What's the point of staying there? My aunt chimed in. Come back quickly, dear. I had already lined up a few decent guys for you, but they all said you're too old for them. As always, I refused. Only this time, I no longer used Luis as an excuse. I'd worked 6 years at a major tech firm. My experience and skills had hit a ceiling, but the fact that I was in a relationship, unmarried, and childless had always been seen as a risk for promotion. After the breakup, I threw myself into work. For a long time, I practically lived at the office. By year end, I had the best KPI performance on the team. And yet, the praise, the promises, they gave all to me. But the promotion? It went to a male colleague with a wife and kids. In the group chat, he posted that coffee was on him. Dozens of thanks. Boss memes followed, along with a few jokes like "Don't forget us when you're rich." I glanced out the floor-to-ceiling windows. Skyscrapers, endless traffic. The people sitting in these chairs changed batch after batch. Each one like me, and yet not like me. Maybe it was time for a different path. That very day, I handed in my resignation. Years later, when I looked back on that moment, it was still crystal clear. So many life-changing decisions happen quietly. On ordinary days. Chapter 4. 5 years later. A class reunion. Only about half the class showed up. Some old classmates discreetly glanced at the bicycle I parked outside. Well, if it isn't Nicole, I nodded politely. Long time no see. I hadn't even finished my sentence when a black Mercedes pulled up. A glamorous woman stepped out of the passenger seat. She was dressed head to toe in Chanel-style tweed, clearly younger than the rest of us. It took me a moment to recognize her. That was Luis's wife, Zoe. She was 4 or 5 years younger than us, with the kind of flawless face that's never seen a 9 to 5. Even her toenails looked manicured to perfection, and she carried a Chanel bag. Luis insisted I come along. Ugh. So annoying. I don't know anyone here. Someone immediately stepped in to smooth things over. Don't worry. You'll get familiar after a few more meetups. Everyone swarmed around her, leading her inside. The classmate who greeted me never looked my way again. Once seated, the main seats were naturally saved for Zoe and Luis, who was still parking. I ended up squeezed into a corner, picking a random chair. Not long after, the conversation somehow shifted to me. Zoe turned to look at me. You're Nicole, right? Nicole? I paused. No one had called me that in years. Usually it was Boss Nicole. Luis told me about you. She continued. I'm here to apologize on his behalf. but nothing about her tone or face said apology. She added casually, "Back then, you two were way too young, and honestly, you're the kind of woman who can't afford to waste time. I mean, aside from youth, you didn't really have much going for you." It was a cruel thing to say, but no one stopped her. They were all waiting to watch the drama. Some looked at me with pity, others with glee. Zoe glanced at my bare ring finger and chuckled. "Don't tell me you're still not married? There's a new guy at Louis's company, about your age, mid-30s. Not tall and kinda balding, but he's decent. I'll set you two up later." Just as she said that, Louis walked in. Maybe his job wasn't too demanding, because at 33, he still had a boyish vibe. He wore an Arc'teryx windbreaker and carried a black LV bag, dressed like some influencer I'd scrolled past online. The moment Louis saw me, his expression froze for a split second, then quickly composed himself and looked away. He sat down beside Zoe and playfully pinched her cheek. "You're being ridiculous. That colleague already has a girlfriend," he added. Zoe pouted. "Aw, that's too bad." Watching them together, I felt dazed. Memories long buried surfaced briefly. In the early years of our relationship, he used to cling to me the same way, never wanting to let go. I listened to them chat. Apparently, their life had been great these past years. Traveling together, raising a corgi. Back in college, my roommate once said Luis was the heroic type, that he'd make a great husband one day, and I believed it, but I never realized he just never wanted to be mine. They gushed about how Luis had made it big, a rising star, HR director at a major company, a textbook winner in life. One classmate interrupted. "Speaking of winners, did you see last week's Finance Weekly cover? One of the partners at Weiqi Tech, only 27 and already financially free. Rumor has it he's ringing the Nasdaq bell soon." She showed us the photo on her phone, a sharply dressed man, with striking features like a half-European model. So handsome. The room let out a collective gasp. If Luis was the kind of guy you'd envy for being born lucky, this man was on another level, too far ahead to even be compared. Just then, my phone buzzed. A message from Elias, reporting in, "Boss, landed in NYC." He sent a photo of the airport, though the background showed runways and terminals. He dominated the image. The weather looked chilly, but he'd already taken off his blazer, loosened his tie, and unbuttoned 2 collar buttons, way more charming than that stiff, polished look from the magazine cover. Suddenly, someone asked, "Zoe's trying so hard to set people up. Has anyone even asked if Nicole has a boyfriend?" Without thinking, I replied, "I'm married." The room went dead silent. Luis paused halfway through peeling shrimp for Zoe. "Nicole, come on, don't joke. We've never heard about you getting married. So where's your husband?" I smiled. "He's at Nasdaq." Ringing the bell. Chapter 5. 5 years ago, when I quit my job, I took 2 of my most capable subordinates with me. The hardest part of starting a business is that first step, the moment you decide to commit and go all in. I met Elias in my second year of running the company. At the time, Elias had just returned from studying abroad and didn't want to take over his family's business. He was job hunting everywhere and failing. His resume was too impressive. His salary expectations were too high. And in practice, he couldn't hold a candle to local graduates. He spoke in a weird English-Chinese hybrid that sounded like he was trying too hard. He didn't even make it past the first round. Didn't get to meet me, the boss. But that night, after staying late at the office, I saw him. It was midnight. The city was quiet. The streetlights flickered. There he was, doing push-ups. Me. When he saw me, he scrambled up and marched over with confidence. "Boss, I'm Elias. I interviewed with your company today. I really think your company's direction fits me. Not hiring me would be your loss." There was a reason he couldn't land a job. But hey, he wasn't wrong. Good-looking people always get some extra grace. At least I didn't call the police. My apartment was next to the office. Just a 10-minute walk. Elias followed me the whole way, going on and on about his amazing academic record, his brilliance, his talents. I hadn't slept properly for days. At that moment, he just felt like a buzzing fly in human form. We passed through the old alleyways of the city. even from afar. I smelled alcohol. Two drunk men had cornered a young woman clearly heading home after working late. She glanced at us with a silent plea for help. The drunks noticed us. When they saw me, they didn't budge, still playing the part of thugs. But when they saw Elias, one of them literally went holy sh. Just as I pulled out my phone to call the cops, a shadow flashed past me, as fast as a greyhound at a championship race. Before they could react, Elias took them both down in one swift move. The girl looked at him with sparkly eyes, half worship, half gratitude. And that was the moment I decided to hire him. Not because I was touched by his act of bravery. I was way past the days of being a wide-eyed freshman in a big city. No, I thought about how I walked this route home every day. And he looked good. Would look even better in investor meetings. These days, people are more than willing to invest in a pretty face. If someone can do two jobs, bodyguard and brand ambassador, why wouldn't I hire him? So I said, Mr. Elias, welcome to the team. A spark of pure joy lit up his pretty eyes. He seemed to believe it was his persistence that had moved me. And I was right. Years later, in his autobiography, he wrote, with perseverance, anything is possible. Drip by drip, stone wears away. I bagged the boss. Then I added hesitantly, but Mr. Elias, as you can see, we're still a startup. We probably can't meet your salary expectations. Elias waved it off. No worries. Is 8K doable? I looked troubled. Might be tough. I'll need to discuss it. He looked a little disappointed. But the next day, when he heard he'd get 10K, he showed up beaming. He completely forgot that during his interview, he'd asked for much more. And just like that, he became my employee. We fought side by side. At first, he showed up every day dressed like he was on a runway. Hair perfectly styled with mousse, clean-shaven, tailored three-piece suits, and that distinct scent of Creed Aventus cologne. He was like a model fresh out of school, the kind who still wears makeup to work. Thankfully, it didn't last long. Soon, he was just as scruffy as the rest of the team. One time, after working overtime for a full month straight, we all passed out at the office. The next morning, I caught Elias poking his belly in horror, whining, "Where did my abs go?" The moment he saw me, he sucked in his stomach hard. I could still make out a faint six-pack. After that, he hit the gym religiously. Even after 10 p.m., he'd still sneak in an hour of workouts. As for how his rich kid identity got exposed, that happened at one of my business dinners. Chapter 6. I take back what I said about starting a business is the hardest part. Every single step is hard until you actually succeed. Women at the table are rare. But not like queens, more like rare cuts of meat. 3 rounds in, I was still being forced to drink and keeping a fake smile on my face. In the middle of the haze, a greasy hand landed on my thigh. I smiled at the owner of that hand, Nestor, and said, "By the way, you and my boyfriend are actually alumni. He mentioned you ages ago, said you were one of the most accomplished graduates from his school. Not just him, lots of juniors look up to you." The hand paused. Nestor narrowed his eyes in pleasure as I flattered him. Others jumped in. "Nicole, you never mentioned a boyfriend before. Does he really let you work this hard? You and Nestor must have a real connection." Huh? Each line dripped with innuendo, layers of probing behind their polite tones. Nestor laughed loudly. A real connection. And his hand crept further up my inner thigh. I shot to my feet and raised my glass. "Well then, let's drink to this wonderful connection." "I'll down mine." "You do as you please." I swallowed it in one go, ignoring the nausea. But Nestor clearly wasn't ready to let go. He slammed his glass hard on the table. The atmosphere turned sour. Someone tried to lighten the mood with a lazy joke. "Nestor's just being tender-hearted. Can't stand seeing you drink so much." "Well, Nicole's a woman, she doesn't get how we do business. That's all." I stayed silent. Nestor's red, bloated face reeked of alcohol. He sneered. "So, Nicole, you don't want this deal, huh? You think I can't tell if you have a boyfriend or not? Even if you do, he can't be better than me. If he was so capable, you wouldn't be here begging for funding. Would you? Probably some little leech who's only good in bed." He was wasted. And the others egged him on. Nicole. Honestly, Nestor taking a liking to you? That's a blessing. Don't waste the chance. I sighed inwardly. So much for trying to stay professional tonight. I smiled instead. Nestor. I think we're done here. He blinked, then blew up. The foul language poured out. I don't know who you think you are. Bitch. I'm doing you a favor even showing up tonight. Even if you begged me, I wouldn't touch you. For a second, I was pulled back to a scene from over a decade ago, when I was still a vulnerable girl being verbally assaulted by an old con couple. Back then, Luis had stepped in to save me. But now? I smashed my glass to the floor, and smirked. Nestor, if your house doesn't have a mirror, you've at least got a toilet, right? My boyfriend has an 8-pack, is of 8 mixed nationalities, and speaks 8 languages. I'm not even Muslim, but I've been raised on fine meals, and I'm not about to choke down something this greasy. Right then, I saw Elias standing at the doorway of the private room. I texted him half an hour ago to come play backup. No idea how long he'd been there or how much he'd heard. His expression was stiff. Everyone turned to look at him. He must have rushed over straight from the gym. T-shirt, joggers, hair still damp, the clean scent of body wash clinging to him. His muscles were flushed from the workout, stretching the shirt tight across his frame. That face, like it had been sculpted for a magazine cover, left the room utterly silent. I looked at him. For some reason, he blushed, then said, in a serious tone, his first word since walking in, "Yes, I'm 8 Nation mixed." Chapter 7. I don't know how it started, but somehow, Nestor's face accidentally collided with Elias's fist. Nestor was screaming for the police. "I'm gonna sue you till you're broke. I'll have your stupid little startup shut down tomorrow." My heart sank. A hint of regret bubbled up about losing control like that. But honestly, if I had to do it again, I still would. Elias noticed the heaviness in my expression and asked, "Guilty, boss." I shouldn't have hit him, right? My mom always says I act before I think. No matter how uneasy I felt, I didn't let it show. I smiled at him. "No, I should be thanking you." He blinked. "You don't have to feel bad. I knew what might happen when I called you here. Remember our first meeting a year ago? You knocked out 2 creeps back then too. You did great." Elias's face turned a bit red. His eyes sparkled. Strange. I was the one entertaining tonight. Was he tipsy or something? Or maybe just nervous. So I reassured him. "I'll get you a lawyer. If there's any compensation to pay, I'll cover it." But just a few minutes later, Nestor suddenly withdrew the police report himself. He looked at Elias with visible fear. "Didn't realize Nicole's boyfriend is young Master Elias. You should have said something. We're practically family. No need to be so polite earlier." Nestor then proceeded to bow and scrape, personally escorting us to the car. He switched faces so fast and so smooth, he could have done shampoo commercials. Outside, the city lights blurred past the window. It was already 10, traffic still crawling on the highway. Elias and I sat in the back seat. His thigh brushed against mine, almost too casually. I glanced at him. He quietly closed his legs. After a long silence, I asked, "Don't you have something to say to me?" "Aw." Elias looked at me, startled. "You figured it out?" I nodded. "That obvious?" "You think it wasn't obvious?" Was it Nestor's sudden personality shift? Or Elias's rich boy pronunciation slipping out? Elias's long fingers clenched on his sweatpants. His knuckles turned pink. Or maybe that was just my imagination. But it did seem pinker than before. I said, "Don't worry. I just wanted to understand my employee's background. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. No pressure." He interrupted me. "No, it's not that. I just hadn't found the right moment to say it. This isn't formal enough. I didn't prepare anything. I mean, I did prepare. There's stuff at home, and a few more." Prepare? For what? Was he planning to wait until my company crashed so he could rise from the ashes like a corporate dragon? I kept a straight face. "Relax. You don't have to prepare anything. Just speak." Elias bit his lip, as if trying to psych himself up. The next second, we both opened our mouths at the same time. "I already know you're a rich kid. Nicole. I like you. Chapter 8. The silence was finally broken by the driver's barely suppressed laugh. The next day at work, Elias turned around and walked away the moment he saw me. After a few steps, as if realizing he had nothing to run from, he turned back and greeted me, trying to play it cool. I noticed the dark circles under his eyes. He was wearing a new fragrance, bitter, unique. I turned and called out just as he was about to leave. Wait. He froze. Hope flickered in his eyes. I hesitated, then asked, "What cologne are you wearing?" He paused for a few seconds, then gave me the name. Before I could say anything else, he was gone. For the next few days, Elias kept avoiding me, until he messed up, big time. His work was sloppy, and a serious issue arose. For the first time, I seriously considered firing him. When I called, the background noise was chaotic. "Where are you?" He replied, "Why do you care? I'm at a bar." A client specifically requested him to handle the situation. So I told him to get back. Now, his voice suddenly spiked. "You rejected me and now I can't even have a heartbroken drink?" I paused and said calmly, "I'm at the office, on speaker." He was silent for a moment, then muttered, "I'm on my way," and hung up. One of my top assistants sighed, "Foolish but beautiful." Another, who quotes classics like Oxygen, added, "The palace needs men like him. Serving the empress doesn't require brains." I was surrounded by smart people, especially after Wei Chi-tek's rapid rise. More and more joined us, drawn by reputation. Even those who weren't sharp were at least self-interested with surgical precision. Office politics escalated. Balancing internal agendas ate up a lot of my time. So not only did I drop the idea of firing Elias, I even started thinking, would it really be that bad to date him? Once the thought appeared, it spread like wildfire. No breaks. One night after work, I stopped him and asked directly, "Do you still like me?" And that's how our relationship started. It lasted 2 years. When Elias proposed, I was a little dazed. 10 years of my last relationship, and it never reached the step. For a moment, I thought of Luis. If he had proposed back then, maybe I'd be home now raising kids. I didn't accept right away. I need time to think. My career's not stable yet. I'm not sure I can give us the life we deserve. Then his mother invested $200 million in my company. We got married. Success, ultimately, is about timing. Some ride the waves of the era. Some lean on family wealth. Some have powerful fathers-in-law. I had a mother-in-law. I'm not ashamed. Sure, I got lucky. But our future? Win-win. After Wei Chi-tek went public, our shares became joint marital assets. So this time, I sent Elias to ring the Nasdaq bell on our behalf. A small gift to my mother-in-law, a proud woman who spent her life strong and self-made, only to trip over her son. She never dreamed he'd one day ring the bell at Nasdaq. As for me, my business partners, who were once my best employees, unanimously agreed I'd been working too hard and needed a break. Something leisurely, they said. Like a class reunion, they somehow got me a bike. All titanium screws. They claimed. They didn't really understand it either. Just picked a fancy one. Cost 500,000 yuan. Apparently, a bit pricier than Luis's Mercedes C-Class. Chapter 9. People usually like rich second-gens, but when someone becomes first-gen rich by their own hands, they're met with relentless skepticism. How did she even make it? No way, she's only in her 30s, and her family wasn't well off. Is that even possible? I don't buy it. This sounds made up. Even fiction wouldn't be this far-fetched. She's just a basic woman, and they're right. I am basic. But maybe fate does wink at you. The moment you decide to rise. Everyone gets a few chances in life. They're brief, often unrecognizable, but if you catch one, you soar. I hadn't planned to tell my old college classmates anything. I just came for a ride, a meal, a breath of the past. The private room buzzed with laughter. Nicole, when did you get so into telling jokes? Zoe laughed until she was wiping away tears. Girl, are you dreaming? It's still daylight. Luis gave me a look, thinly veiled disgust. To him, Being with me was an embarrassing stain on his record. Just then, a waiter knocked and entered. Someone's bicycle out front got hit by a car. The handlebars are bent. The driver was in a rush, left 200 yuan, and asked us to pass it on. He handed over 2 crisp 100 yuan bills. Someone immediately chimed in. Must be Nicole's, she's the only one who biked here. That sparked another round of laughter. Bent handlebars? I thought for a moment and said, 200 might not be enough. The laughter paused, then roared back, louder than before. Zoe was crying from laughing too hard. Come on, girl, just take the 200. It's a busted old bike. A girl who used to live next to me in college tried to defend me. Isn't cycling trendy now? Some bikes are expensive. Nicole's looked fancy, but her voice was drowned in the noise. I couldn't be bothered. I asked the waiter, do you have the driver's contact info? I'll send him the repair bill later. Not sure how much it'll cost yet. I heard it was imported. Might even need to ship it abroad for repairs. Brand new gift, wrecked already. Not exactly uplifting. The waiter gave me a look, part disgust, part suspicion, like he thought I was trying to scam the guy. But professionally, he still contacted the driver. The moment the call connected, the man on the other end sounded annoyed, clearly thought I was being unreasonable. The others in the room joined in. Nicole, 200 is already generous. I sighed, opened my phone, and showed the waiter a payment screenshot. Just send this to him for now. The waiter took one glance, then another, and rubbed his eyes like he was hallucinating. Miss, you're not one of those scam artists, are you? A male classmate leaned over, peeked at my phone screen, and let out a scream. 58,000? Wait, 580,000? The room went dead silent. Chapter 10. You can coordinate with my assistant for the rest. I handed the waiter my assistant's contact, then calmly sat back down. Faces in the room twisted into all sorts of expressions. Someone finally broke the silence. Nicole, why would you buy a 580,000 yuan bicycle? Someone else whispered. Isn't that just a Photoshop job? I replied. It was a gift from some friends. The questioner let out a breath of relief. Ah, that makes more sense. I knew it couldn't be you buying it. Realizing how that sounded, he added awkwardly. Not that you can't afford it, I mean, it's just not practical, right? Was it like a group gift? From a bunch of people? Oh, that explains it. We were starting to think Nicole got rich or something, ha ha ha. Only the girl who had spoken up for me earlier murmured. Even if it was 58 people, that's 10K per person. No one paid attention. The food soon arrived. People were busy clinking glasses, yelling across the table, chain smoking, the room filled with smoke and noise. I stepped out for some air. I was looking up at the moon when someone approached. Luis. He stepped out for a smoke. After all these years, he finally said my name. Nicole. It's been a long time. Huh? I nodded. Yeah, well, you did delete me off every platform back then. Luis continued. I actually left you a message in the music app, under that song we used to listen to together. I couldn't remember what song that was. He was clearly tipsy, slipping into nostalgia. I smiled politely. Haven't really had time for music lately. He looked down at me with a half smile, like I was being stubborn. You're still the same. Always have to win the argument. Never let your guard down. You were like that back then, too. If you just softened up a little, maybe we wouldn't have broken up. He kept going. I remember the first time I saw you. You were so different from the girls I grew up around. They were spoiled, materialistic, obsessed with brands, careless with money. And yet, he married exactly that type. I didn't understand it at first, but I got it in a second. Because he was the same, just a different gender. Everyone has a certain nature. It's not right or wrong, but when you grow up in a certain environment, exposed too early to certain things, it's hard to resist the lure of comfort and consumption. Still, that's only one part of who a person is. I've worked with people from all over the country, each with their quirks, shaped by where they're from, but ultimately, defined by who they are. But clearly Luis wasn't here for that kind of reflection. He leaned in, voice low and husky. Nicole, all these years. Did you ever think about me? What would have happened if we hadn't broken up? A nightmare. I didn't answer that. I just smiled. Your wife's very pretty. Luis let out a bitter chuckle. Nicole, you're still mad at me, huh? Maybe he was too drunk to understand words. All you see is her looks. You didn't see how she can't cook at all. We've never used the stove at home. I either eat at work or out somewhere. Never a hot meal waiting. It's embarrassing. She buys random gaming merch, gets pets and tosses them when they're not cute anymore. We've gone through 5 or 6 cats by now. I'd heard enough. I turned to go. He followed, still rambling behind me. Stop pretending. Nicole, I know you never got over me. That's why you're still single. I paused, speechless. He didn't still love me. He just couldn't resist using me to validate himself. Look at her, so scarred after me. She couldn't find another man, because no one could compare to me. Pathetic. I walked back into the room, and Luis, of course, followed. As I sat down, his hand brushed my waist. Casual, almost unnoticeable, but I dodged enough grabby hands at business dinners to know it was intentional. Before I could react, the girl who'd mentioned Elias earlier lit up. She whipped out her phone and cast a live stream to the TV. Guys, check out my idol. He puts all those boy band celebs to shame. On screen, Elias, perfectly dressed in a suit, shirt buttoned all the way up. The camera did not diminish his looks. After the serious questions, a reporter joked in Chinese, "Mr. Elias, we heard you're married. Any chance you'll tell us a little more?" She hadn't even finished the question when Elias jumped in. Of course! His eyes lit up, like he'd been waiting for it. He said excitedly, "Babe, are you watching the stream? I'm guessing you're not. You're probably at the class reunion. No worries. I'll replay this part for you later." Then, he formed a heart with his fingers and looked straight into the camera, eyes full of affection. I love you, Nicole. Chapter 11. I didn't ride my bike home that night. It had already been sent for repairs. Instead, a Maybach came to pick me up. Through the car window, the expressions on my classmates' faces were priceless. Especially Luis. His face turned green, red, and pale all at once, like a human color palette. Later on, quite a few of them actually tried to contact me, but none made it past my assistant. She had a go-to script, flawlessly delivered. "Oh, even though you don't have an appointment, you're one of our boss's old classmates. Of course, I'll put you into our alumni priority queue. There are just a few hundred ahead of you. Thanks for your patience." One time, I happened to walk past her desk. She was replying to a message, and this time, the tone was different. She feigned surprise, eyes wide. Typing, "What? You're our boss's ex-boyfriend? Well then, before you see the boss, you might need to meet with Mr. Elias first." Perfect, flexible, sharp, and intuitive. I gave her a bonus on the spot. Later, I saw Luis again at a business event. He didn't come to speak with me directly, but his company's CEO did. Luis was standing just behind him. Honestly, I wouldn't have noticed him at all if he hadn't been staring at me the whole time.